Hello everybody and welcome to the Little King story playthrough.
I am more noble than you, and he is more noble than me. The rich are more noble than the poor, and those who work hard are more noble than the lazy. Then who is the most noble of them all?
Once upon a time, there was a timid young boy who was lonely. One morning, before him appeared a family of pesky rats. Hey, wait! Uh-oh, where am I? Deep in the dark forest, the young boy discovered a magical gold crown. From the day he put on that mystical crown, they say the boy became a magnificent king. And all men and animals, one and all, they say became his loyal followers. And so somehow, in some such way, the young boy was no longer lonely.
Whenever I see that intro, I'm just like, oh my god, it's the Bolero! Yeah, Little King Story is a wonderful, wonderful game filled with lots and lots and lots and lots of classical music, so expect quite a few classical music lessons throughout this playthrough. I mean, at the minute we're listening to Elgar's amazing Pomp and Circumstance #1, which I'm pretty sure that most people will recognise as Land of Hope and Glory, which is obviously what it became when people started adding lyrics. It's very, very, very popular song in the UK. But yes, this is a wonderful game where we take control of little Kurobo, the king of the kingdom of Alpoco, and it's our duty to rule our kingdom. It's a little bit small at present, as Hauser, who's our trusted servant, is going to tell us. But it's a wonderful game. It's one of the Wii's most underrated gems. It really is. It's stunning. I mean, to look at this art style, it's gorgeous, and the music and So obviously you can name the king whatever you like, so this is King Richie, because quite rightly so. But obviously his official name is Kurobo. Not quite sure what that is referring to. I mean, I can't find any instances of the name, but I wonder whether it's a reference to corroboration. So basically confirming or supporting statements or whatever. I honestly do not know. But yes, when you initially look at this game, you might think, I wonder what type of game it is. Well, it's essentially a real-time action strategy game, or real-time strategy live simulation role-playing game, as it says on the Wikipedia page. Essentially, it plays very much like Pikmin, but in a more RPG fashion. You are building up your kingdom and sending them off into battle. And obviously you go with your warriors in that Pikmin-like fashion, with all of them following you, and you send them charging towards whatever opponents lie in wait. And you collect loads of treasure, you buy more places to build up your kingdom, and it's a long game. I seem to have an obsession with starting off a new year in terms of my YouTube channel with massive playthroughs at present. Obviously, last year I did Okami, which is a hefty RPG, and this time it's a Little King Story, which is another hefty RPG. Takes well over 20 hours, probably nearer 30. So, we are in this one for the long haul. Now, why did I decide to do Little King Story? Well, if you look at the date it came out in North America, it came out July 21st, 2009, which, just 2 days later, I created XGamerRichy Returns. So, I felt that it was only right to celebrate 7 years of XGamerRichy Returns with a game that is also celebrating its 7th anniversary this year. Which, obviously, 7 years is not exactly a big anniversary, but I don't know, it just felt right. And I have always wanted to do this game for a while. It's just, I don't know. I think because it was quite long, and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to go about doing the commentary for it, how the recording would go, because of the way the game is structured, there's a bit of a downtime after the first big boss of the game, and it does last for quite a while, and I was slightly worried. I mean, part of me is still ever so slightly worried, because I'm still in the middle of recording, as happens. And I've been getting a little bit distracted. Had quite a bit of Fire Emblem Fates to play through. Wanted to finish all of that off. But now I'm at the point where I can just sit down and plough through Little King Story and just have an absolute blast. So, Liam here, who is our Anything Minister, is essentially your tutorial, so he will tell you everything that you need to know. He tells you how to chat to people, how to recruit them. He's got all the information about charging and retreating. You send them off to work, and you call them back. There's a whole bunch of things that you're going to need to master. The general gameplay is pretty simple in Little King Story, but the key is making sure that you strategize how you send in your workers, because you can end up putting them in danger, and they will be at risk of death, and you are likely to lose a lot of citizens throughout the course of this game. At present, we only have one type of job for our citizens, and that's carefree adults. Basically, the only thing they can do is digging holes. But we are going to be making excellent use of that today. And we are just gonna toddle on all the way through this game, just enjoying everything it has to offer. I mean, for starters, just this lovely, colourful art style. I think it's easily one of the most charming things about Little King Story. I should point out it's developed by Sing and Town Factory. I don't know whether Sing really did... Well, they did 2 games after Little King Story, but unfortunately in 2010 they did file for bankruptcy, so they didn't do too well. But they did create Glass Rose for Capcom, Another Code 2 Memories and Hotel Dusk Room 215 for Nintendo, Monster Rancher DS for Tecmo, Another Code R, A Journey into Lost Memories for Nintendo, then there was Little King Story, and then they made again for Tecmo, and Last Window, The Secret of Cape West for Nintendo, and that was it, unfortunately. There is one other version of Little King Story that exists, and that is New Little King Story, which was released on the PS Vita and developed by Konami, and that wasn't received nearly as well as Little King Story because it turned this really adorable and actually quite deceptive game into a very standard harem RPG title, which just doesn't fit with what is presented in this original title, because what you've got here is a game that is incredibly cutesy in its art design and in everything it does, but there's an undercurrent of actually quite dark subject matter. It doesn't really start to come to the fore until you start to get further into the game, but certain elements of the game are surprisingly dark, and I do mean that, but it works so well. It's one of the few instances where dissonance actually works well in a game, and where dark subject matter is somehow fitting with a cute art style. Now, something that I desperately need to point out is that in, this year, it has been announced, and it's going to be published this year, there's going to be a Microsoft Windows version of the original Little King Story being published by XGamerRichy. So if you missed out on your chance to play Little King Story when it originally came out, or to play it on the Wii, it is coming to PC at some point this year. And it's going to be like full HD, it's going to be hopefully quite stunning. And I don't think there's any extra bits and bobs to it. But yes, so there is going to be true HD Little King Story coming out later this year. And I don't know quite how well it's going to suit the game, because as you can see, the art style's got a slight fuzz to it. It's all slightly blurry, so it looks like a painting, really. Or like it's been drawn with crayons and all that, and it's really cute. And I don't quite know how well a HD version of it will turn out, because it might make certain elements of the game look ugly when it's actually really quite pretty. But either way, it was directed by Yoshiro Kimura. The designers are Yasuhiro Wada, Yoshiro Kimura, and Tomohiro Misei. The key artists are Hideo Minaba and Kazuyuki Kurashima. And the main composer for the title is Yutaka Minobe, although obviously quite a lot of the songs are based on classical tracks, so he basically did more arranging than composing. But Yoko Shimomura actually contributed an arrangement to the game, and that is the Bolero. So that song that you heard right at the beginning of the game was actually arranged by Yoko Shimomura. And that actually apparently was used as a guideline for how the rest of the soundtrack would sound. So if there's a hint of Yoko Shimomura about this, that is why. But there's so much about this game that I am utterly in love with, and I always will be. And while it's quite slow to get off the mark, because we are just going to be doing a lot of running around with farmers and eventually soldiers and all of that, just picking up treasure and gradually making our way to exploring more of the world. It's nice and relaxing to begin with, and then it just ramps up to utterly ludicrous heights. Just exactly what I always like to see in games, just when... And also it's that typical RPG thing of they just expand and expand and expand and expand and expand until you're just on this ridiculously epic quest. And I just love that sort of stuff. Now, at present, there's not a whole lot that we can actually do. We've just got to make sure that we explore as much of this initial area as possible. Now, I don't really need to go in there just yet. I would prefer to have some soldiers before I go and tackle that. But I think that no, I don't have enough ball. Which ball is the total money. Well, it's the money in the game. Don't know whether that's just a slight reference to the bolero being like the game's main theme, or what. But it's a nice little thing. Also, I have absolutely no idea what the symbol for the money is in this game, because it looks ridiculous, but it's awesome. But either way, we now have a place to train some soldiers. So that basically covers everything that Hauser wanted us to do, so far anyway. We're still a puny, insignificant little kingdom, and we must expand further. But it's a start. And now that we are going to be able to have soldiers, we are going to be able to attack things, and that is going to be our saving grace. But before we can actually continue, we need to wait until tomorrow, until Hauser actually has a plan. So let's go to bed. See you in the morning.